True Lies from 1994 is my VHS watch of the week. This is a very common VHS tape. You've probably seen this at Goodwill before. And in fact, this movie is in a plastic shell and it was on my VIP shelf, but I think it's going to get demoted for reasons I'll talk about soon. But this one has a good picture, looks good on the CRT TV, and it's probably the best way to watch True Lies because they screwed up the 4K or something like that. True Lies is about a spy named Harry who is played by Arnold Schwarzenegger. He's married to a character played by Jamie Lee Curtis. She doesn't know he's a spy. And when he finds out she might be having an affair, he uses his resources to figure out what's going on, and she gets ensnared into his job and responsibilities. This movie came highly recommended from a coworker of mine who has a ton of nostalgia for this movie, and as somebody who's watching it for the first time, I can definitely see why someone around my age who would have been a teenager when this movie came out would have loved it and still had strong feelings of nostalgia for it. And I'll be honest, it does have a lot going for it. Namely, the stunts are crazy. This is a James Cameron film, and for the time, a lot of the stuff they did in this was just way over the top to the point where it gets a little silly. And that's the other element I liked about this movie. It's a comedy. Tom Arnold is Schwarzenegger's sidekick pretty much, and he provides the comic relief, although I will say some of the jokes didn't age very well. Also, I didn't realize it until I started watching it. This movie is 2.5 hours long. Now, there's nothing wrong with that, but for some reason I was expecting a 90-minute thrill ride, but this movie is long, and it does, in my opinion, sometimes drag a little bit, even though it feels like it's moving from beat to beat. Now again, if you have nostalgia for this movie and you love it, I totally get it. It's just weird watching these kind of movies in the present day when you don't have the nostalgia factor for them. Also, in general, I'm not a fan of pretty much anybody in this cast except for Bill Paxton. He also provides a lot of comic relief. And as much as I feel like I'm poo-pooing this movie, if you want to see some cool stunt work from the 90s, this is definitely a showcase of a big budget action movie from that era. Sorcerer from 1977 was directed by William Friedkin and stars Roy Scheider. This movie seems to be doing the rounds in the zeitgeist. I think Criterion released a 4K of it recently, but it has been on Criterion Blu-ray for a while, I believe. This was an overlooked movie for the time, and there are various reasons for that, which I don't need to go into here. But suffice it to say, the movie-going public at the time may have overlooked one of the best movies that came out in that era. In the movie, Scheider and a group of other men are hiding out in an unnamed South American country after committing various crimes that are shown in the beginning of the film. I've heard people say the first half of this film is not as engaging as the second half, and in general that's true, but I would say you're not going to be bored until the truck stuff comes, which I'm going to talk about in a second. The introductions of these characters for me were exciting, and it was cool to see their backgrounds, and they're very important to the story and the stakes of what is going on later. And what happens later is these guys are given a proposition, a promise to leave their exile in this country by completing a job. The job is to take 6 cases on 2 trucks of highly volatile explosives over 200 miles to a drilling site. Our characters have to use their wits and ingenuity as well as technical skills and expertise to piece together the 2 trucks in the first place and then navigate them through treacherous jungles, floods, mudslides, and all kinds of stuff. And this is where most people say the film hits its stride. Now, I'm leaving out a bunch of details in my plot synopsis, and one of the things that is great about this movie is that it doesn't explain too much. You have to watch what's going on, you have to infer from details that are shown on screen and read between the lines a little bit. It's not the kind of movie you have to figure out, but it is the kind of movie that doesn't spoon feed you the details of what's going on. In fact, when I was explaining the plot of this film to a coworker, I realized I got an important detail wrong, but that just gave me reason to want to watch the movie again. This movie was an easy 5 out of 5 for me. I actually work in transportation and logistics, and watching watching these four men solve these problems was very inspirational and made my email job pale in comparison. If you want to watch a movie about competent men who may be in a morally gray situation, but they are using their wits and ingenuity and expertise to get a specific job done, and they're shown as highly intelligent and willing to put in some elbow grease and even risk their lives to get the job done, then I really think you should check out Sorcerer. The Love of G-Nay from 1927, directed by G.W. Pabst, is the third movie I've seen with Brigitte Helm in it, and I opined in my previous video that I want to see more of her work, but I discovered while listening to the commentary track on this Blu-ray that she pretty much left the film industry in the 30s and retired. So although this won't be the last, there aren't too many more of hers to watch. And in this one, she's not necessarily the star of the show. Jean-Nay is our main character who escapes civil war in Crimea after her father is killed by her lover. She goes to Paris to stay with her uncle, who is a private detective, and his daughter, who is blind, played by Brigitte Helm. Here we have another excellent silent film from Germany, another piece of Weimar cinema, and this goes heavily into the political drama, as Jean-Nay's lover is a communist revolutionary in Crimea. On top of that, there's a heist involving a mustache-twirling villain, a little bit of action, more intrigue, and so many twists and turns that I was on the edge of my seat waiting to see what would happen next. Like many of the silent films I've seen, some of the histrionics and over-the-top acting that had to be done to convey what was going on are present in this movie to an almost comical degree. However, there's also a ton of subtextual stuff that you really have to read between the lines and infer what's kind of going on, the relationships between our characters, the reasons behind what they're doing, and keeping in mind the context of what was going on in the world and Europe specifically at the time. I've been saying this for weeks now, but I have yet to see an old silent film that didn't kick ass. I'm going to keep watching them, and I recommend you try one out if you've never seen one. The Love of G-Nay might not be the best place to start with silent film, but in my opinion, it can definitely stand shoulder to shoulder with the classics. And that'll do it for this episode. Thank you very much for watching till the end. If you like these short movie reviews that I do, I have a whole playlist of them on my channel. Thanks again, and I'll see you on the next one.